We had some pretty talented kids down there, and like I was telling you earlier, the best thing about them is they're just good kids. We had a lot of good leadership. We had a lot of kids that have been playing together since they were about seventh, eighth grade, um, and doing some really good stuff there. Um, so I figured I can talk to you about some wide zone stuff, and I can show you like some actual film of us, or I can just do some run game tags in general, where I have some just kind of generic clips of different teams. Just depends on what you guys are feeling like.
Let's go with the wide zone, man. Everybody likes a little wide zone.
All right, let me grab that and pull that up. Okay. All right, and I can share my screen with you directly, right?
Yep, you should be good to go. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So here we go. There we go. Okay.
All right. Yep, we got you.
All right. So we'll get this thing started. I'll try to run through it really quickly. Get through the main points. So wide zone has been a big part of our offense the last couple of years. Just trying to find us a kind of a play we could hang our hats on, and it's been that play for us for most of these 2 years. We were a little bit better at inside zone and counter this year, and so those two plays played a little bit more into our scheme as well. But wide zone is definitely really our kind of our hang your hat play for a lot of these past 2 years. So we'll go ahead and get started. There's my contact info. I can always come back to that if anybody needs it. Just a little bit about me. My name is Jake Timmerman. I'm coaching down here in Georgia. This was my 7th year coaching. I spent the first 5 years at Northside High School in Warner Robins. I graduated college in 2014 and was fortunate enough to get on the staff there as the 9th grade coach in 2014. Northside's a pretty successful program here in the state. And so that was a great opportunity for me to go learn how to, do things correctly. And so I spent the first 2 seasons as the 9th grade OL coach, the next 2 seasons as the varsity OL coach. I spent my last season there as the 9th grade quarterbacks and offensive coordinator, just because I thought that would be a good opportunity to get that challenge and learn how to call a game and put together practice plans and stuff like that. As someone who wants to be an offensive coordinator someday. We were fortunate enough to win the state championship my first year at Northside, so that was a really cool experience to see what that was like and play that long. And it was a feeling that I had been chasing ever since. And so I came up to Grayson in 2019. That was my first season there. We were 11-2. Then in this past year, in 2020, we had a season to remember. We won the state championship this year in 7A football, which is the highest level of football in Georgia. We finished top 5 national ranking in 3 major polls. I just had a great year. It was awesome. Great group of kids. That's what really made it all. We're not necessarily some brainiac coaches or anything. We just had really good kids, and we were able to put them in a position to be successful. Guys that have influenced me over the years in terms of, scheme and offensive line technique. LaCharles Bentley, the things he does at OLP, if you don't follow him, I strongly suggest it. That's just how I teach things. That's just what I believe in, and it paid dividends for us this year. Alex Gibbs, obviously the godfather of wide zone. Sam Pittman was the OL coach here at UGA for a few years. Was always down to talk, at clinics and stuff like that, and always answer questions and things of that sort. Herb Hand is another guy it's always been open for me to reach out to and talk to, and several other guys on Twitter, guys that too many to name. Just some of our season stats, and you can see kind of our yards per carry and things of that sort. We were able to run for over 6 yards a carry each season, which I know some people may put up better stats out there, but we felt like that here in 7A football in Georgia, those are pretty good stats. We're a pretty balanced offense as well. You can see there. Okay, we scored 38 points a game this year. But kind of getting to the meat of things, what everybody wants to hear and see is wide zone. So why should you run this play? Well, in my opinion, it's a downhill, no nonsense running play. Like I said, it can be a hang your hat play. That's what it was for us. If you rep it enough, right, and you really commit to it, it's going to limit the amount of negative plays you're going to have. It's got big play potential. it can be run versus almost any defensive front you'll see. Now, obviously, defenses can do certain things to take it away, but if they do that, they're probably going to give up other things, right? Now, because it's not scheme dependent, you can spend a lot more time working on fundamental techniques. You don't have to spend 30 minutes every day, saying, all right, this is how we're going to block it if they go here. This is how we're going to block it if they go here, right? You can run it from a lot of different multiple personnel sets and formations. I mean, you've probably seen teams that run this from 10 personnel shotgun to, under center strong eye formation type deals, right? And it can also be packaged with other schemes and concepts, creating more conflict for the defense, like your RPOs, like your bootleg play action, stuff like that. Now, the one thing I'll say is you cannot date this play. You got to marry it, right? Wide zone can't be the chick you go see on the weekends. Okay, it's got to be your number one. You got to marry it. It cannot be. You can't run inside zone and counter and trap and dart, all right, and wide zone and pin it and not be good at it. At least in my opinion, that's not the observation that I've seen. We pretty much ran wide zone, inside zone, and counter, and those were our main three. And we may sprinkle in a little bit of dart and a little bit of power, but wide zone, inside zone, and counter were our big three. So what's the objective of the play? Well, we're trying to stretch the defense horizontally, make them run sideline to sideline all game long. Them big defensive linemen don't like to run sideline to sideline. They like it when you run right at them. So we're going to try to make them run, right, and maintain their gaps as the gaps get stretched out and move. We want to take that ball wide, and we're going to try to force corners and safeties to make tackles in the open field. Most of the time, corners don't like to tackle, and they're not very good at tackling, okay? And so we try to take advantage of that, and we try to leave those corners unblocked anytime we can. Unless you're just playing like a true, like cover two trap technique or something like that, we're probably going to go crack your safeties. Now, if we can't get the ball wide, we want to cut off the backside pursuit and open up a cutback lane and get that thing downhill. Most of the big plays happen when you get that thing downhill. Unless you just got a guy who's just way faster than everybody, you're not going to circle the defense and get outside every single play and hit big plays. If you're playing a good defense, they'll stretch it out eventually. You got to be able to get the backside pursuit cut off, get the front side stretched out, and get that cutback lane. You want to try no negatives, okay? You want to limit all your negatives, and you want to get average 4 yards of play. You want to get at least 4 yards of play. And I think for us, the past 2 years, we've been around 8 with this play, 7 to 8. So just some of the basic stuff we teach with the O-line. I won't get into a ton of that stuff, but it's all OLP as far as the stance and stuff like that. Now, the splits, I will say, are pretty important. We try to not get any wider than 2 feet and no shorter than 1.5 feet. And part of the reason for this is just because it makes it easier for the combo blocks. If you've got a 3 foot, 4 foot split, that's going to be a really long way for you to try to reach block if you're the uncovered guy to try to go combo with your down partner, okay? That's just what we do. I know some teams live and die with those big splits, and that's cool. But for us, we try to keep it around 2 feet. Now, the exception, that's a backside tackle. He can get his a little bit wider, okay? But as far as that, we don't want anybody wider than 2 feet, okay? Now, as far as getting shorter, that can depend on the defensive lineman alignment and the O-lineman assignment. For example, a backside guard working to reach a shaded nose between him and the center, you might can cut that split down, right? Especially if you're, this particular guard is not the most fleet of foot player you have, right? He can cut that split down to 1 foot. The depth is huge. You want to make sure you get enough depth off the ball so your helmet breaks the hip of the center. This is for 2 things. It gives us better angles in the run game, and it gives us more space and time in pass pro. Like I said, we're a balanced offense, so we're going to throw the ball 20, 25 times a game. And so we want to be able to hold up in pass pro. And so that depth helps us in the run game with our angles and in the pass pro. Standard stuff we teach everybody, gaps and alignment. But again, I think it's important to teach your guys this so that they can talk football with you, right? We know it, but your players may not know it. We talk about moving on 8 angles and how to appropriately move on those 8 angles. We teach the drive catch principle again from OLP, LaCharles and those guys, talking about force through the ground. If you want to go in one direction, you got to put force through the ground in the opposite direction, right? Okay, so the aiming point, okay, the aiming point with the back, all right, is just talk about the running back here is the butt of the tight end or outside leg of the tackles. I know some guys use some slightly different aiming points. Some guys say outside leg of the tight end or outside leg of the tackle. I just go off traditional Alex Gibbs and teach the butt of the tight end. If there is no tight end, aim for the ghost tight end, right? Now, this running back's got to take a drop step to be aligned to his path, all right? This step may vary slightly from player to player. You know, some guys may take a bigger step, some guys may take shorter, but the important thing is to get their shoulders turned, their hips and their shoulders going directly to the landmark. It doesn't, the rest of the stuff doesn't matter, really. As long as they get their hips and their shoulders turned and facing that landmark, that's the main thing, okay? Because you want it to be a nice straight line. You don't want them to curve or banana it or whatever, okay? That's some of the things you'll have to watch for some of your running backs is a lot of times they'll try to go too downhill and then try to banana it, right? Try to bend it like that. They need to get those hips and shoulders pointed straight at that tight end. How you read it out, okay? The first read has to be the second defensive lineman past the center. This is typically a defensive end. And the second read is going to be the first defensive lineman past the center, right? So that's typically going to be like a defensive tackle in a traditional four-man front. You got to teach your back bounce, bang, bend rules, okay? The running back makes his decision by the third step, and he makes his cut by the fifth step, all right? So, and again, this is important because it kind of coincides with the timing and the teaching of the blocks with the O-line. Okay, so he's got to know if that defensive end, okay, if that's my first read, that's the defensive end. If he goes outside, I can't go outside. If he goes outside, my eyes come into my first read, or my second read, which is the first defensive line pass the center. Like I said, typically maybe like a 3 technique. And now I read him. If he's going out, then I really bang that thing downhill. All right. And hopefully, if the O-line has done their job, again, those gaps are all moving. So yes, technically, the back may hit it in the quote unquote A gap or backside A gap, but again, those gaps have moved, 6 to 7 yards by the time he gets ready to make that cut. Okay, if that first read stays in, he's going to keep it outside. All right, and I'll show you some looks of that. Got to make sure your backs understand they get one cut. Okay, one cut. There's no dancing. Okay, you got to get downfield at full speed. Press the heels of those offensive linemen and do not make a cut until you've reached the line of scrimmage. Okay, try not to make that cut before that fifth step. Get those linebackers to come up and commit. Don't let them try to be able to play over the top and then come back underneath. Make them commit to you, right? Be on that angle, right? Be on that path and follow your footwork. Okay. So again, this is what I mean by the read, right? So here, the on the left diagram on the left, the second defensive lineman past the center is this end. So he is the first read. All right. The first defensive lineman past the center is the second read. Okay. Now, you may think, why don't you just teach it outside in? Well, you can do that, but it gets a little convoluted when you start teaching these odd man front teams. Okay. Because most of the time you play these odd man front teams, this backer right here over the tight end, he's going to be a force player, right? He's probably not going to let the ball get outside of him. So we really don't even count him in the read, okay? And especially unless you just got just a freaking, butt kicker over there at tight end, that backer might be a better player than him anyways, okay? So we just kind of assume with that 3-4 guy playing up and outside the tight end, the ball's probably not getting out there anyways. So just bring the read in. All right. First read is the defensive end. Second read is the head up nose. Okay. And I can talk more about the back if you guys have questions later, but this is primarily about the offensive line. So getting into the O-line. Okay. The first thing we teach is covered uncovered. All right. That's kind of the foundation of how everything works itself out. Right. So covered uncovered refers to whether or not an offensive lineman has a defender lined up head up to their play side gap. Okay, so for example, if there's a first level defender either head up or in your play side gap, you're covered. If not, then you're uncovered. Now, I had this on here because this is just kind of the way I learned, when I was at Northside. We didn't treat an inside shade as covered, but that's kind of changing a little bit with a lot of these odd man front teams that are running those 4 eyes. I'm not sure, how much you guys are seeing that in different areas, but, I've kind of had to retool my thinking on that and really basically treat that 4 eye as a 4 and treat him like the tackle's covered, unless they have another guy walked up outside as well, in which case we've got to adjust our formation or basically push the blocks out. Okay. But those 4 eyes can give you a problem sometimes, especially if that tackle just leaves that guard, right? That block, that can be a hard block, especially that 4 eye is a pretty good player. Okay. So I've kind of retooled my thinking on that a little bit, but most everywhere else. Okay. I don't really worry about those inside shades as being considered covered. Okay. Now, being covered or uncovered doesn't change our landmark or our aiming point, just the angle of approach we take to get there. So as far as, what our landmarks are and what our aiming points are, that's the same for everybody on the line of scrimmage, whether you're covered or uncovered. The covered uncovered part just determines, like I said, the angle you got to take to get there. And we also talk about own your angle. I try not to overcoach some things, but that's a coaching cue we love to use, is go own that angle. That's your angle. Get on it with some acceleration and with some force and take anything that comes on that angle. All right. The covered uncovered is very important because it determines who's working together, right? Where the combos are going to be at. Okay. And we'll get more into that in a little bit. But each covered offensive lineman has to know if they have help coming from their backside teammate or not. Okay. If your backside teammate is covered, you're probably not going to have any help unless we just make a full zone call, right? Maybe they're showing some kind of funky look or whatever. But if I'm a right tackle and we're running out wide zone to the right, if I have a 5 technique on me and my right guard has a 3 technique on me, I probably can't count on him coming with me. Okay. Because him and the center got to take care of that 3 technique somehow. Now, like I said, you can full zone it. Okay. But you got to really teach that tackle. If my inside partner's covered too, I probably don't have any help. Right. Now, a big thing we always talk about with the line is defining the read. Right. So as we get into these zone combos, all right, I'll talk about defining the read for the running back. And this is probably the hardest part right here. This is probably the hardest part once you get the play going, right? Outside of teaching the initial technique and stuff, this is probably the hardest part. What this means is that the uncovered offensive lineman in a zone combo has to push any hanging cloth into the next zone or fully take it over, right? We tell them you got to knock it over or take it over. So what that means is there cannot be any defender occupying 2 offensive linemen beyond the first 3 steps of the play, because that's when the running back is making his decision. Okay, so the worst thing that can happen is 1 defensive lineman taking up 2 offensive linemen, because that probably means there's a linebacker that's unblocked somewhere. So this is the part that's going to take the most work, is your uncovered guys learning to get a feel for, when do I take it over? When do I knock it over, right? How do I knock it over, right? How do I take it over? And so that's the part when in those zone combos that you really just got to drill the crap out of. Okay. Help your guys understand what their job is, right? So talk to them about creating an alley. The big plays in wide zone, like I said, unless you just got some speed demon who's going to get outside and just outrun everybody on the defense, the big plays in wide zone hit when the front side of the offensive lineman get the defense stretched out horizontally and the back side of the offensive lineman get the defense cut off. That's where you get those nice, pretty running lanes, okay? And I'll show you some on the film. Now, it's imperative that the offensive linemen know their role based on where the play is going, right? They need to know if they're play side or backside and what their job should be. I got to know if I'm on the play side, hey, I'm trying to get this guy to run with me to the sideline. I got to know if I'm on the backside, I need to try to get these guys cut off. Okay. It doesn't have to be a killer block. I don't have to get a pancake, but I got to get him cut off some way, somehow. So I mentioned aiming points earlier. Okay. The aiming points that we use, right? So the landmark that you're trying to teach these offensive linemen to get, you're trying to involve that backside hand and knee. Okay. Those are the main coaching cues that we use there as far as the aiming points. We talk about backside hand, backside knee, backside hand, backside knee. Okay. Now this is going to vary slightly whether you have help coming from the backside or not. Okay. If you're a covered offensive lineman and you know you have help, your backside hand is trying to get down that defender's sternum, that first level defender, right? That defensive lineman. You're trying to get your backside hand down his sternum, and you want to take that backside knee and drive it through his crotch. Okay. We're not just trying to swing our butts and turn and all that stuff. I want to get some movement, right? So I'm trying to take my backside hand, get it down the defender's sternum, and drive my backside knee through his crotch. And that again is going to be a little bit determined on where the defender is. Okay. If I'm covered and I don't have any help, okay, if my inside partner is covered and I can't bank on him coming to help me, my aiming point is going to change just a little bit. I'm going to now, instead of getting my backside hand down the sternum, I'm going to get my backside hand to his inside armpit to essentially catch the defender, right? To prevent some type of hard slant inside if that's what he wants to try to do. Okay. Because the worst thing that can happen is I'm by myself and I go to reach this defensive lineman and I overreach, right? I take a really wide and flat angle and he stunts inside of me. And he just blew the play up. Okay. So teach your guys that they got to know, if I'm covered and I don't have any help coming with me, I've got to change my aiming point from the sternum to the inside armpit to try to catch that defender and anticipate maybe possible stunt inside. Okay. Now, I don't use any coaching cues involving the head. I know some guys talk about getting your hat crossed, blah, blah, blah. And people ask me, how do you teach that? And I don't. I don't use any coaching cues involving the head, not in anything I do, not in any run game scheme, not in any pass game scheme, because I don't want my players to block people with their head. I would ideally like to keep the head out of the block, right? We've got to make sure we're taking care of our players, right, and take care of this game and make it as safe as possible. And so I try to take the head out of the coaching cues, right? Now I mentioned those angles of approach. So the offensive lineman has to set his hips on the appropriate angle to hit those landmarks. Okay, like we said, the backside hand and knee. Those don't change no matter where the defensive lineman is. Okay, if he's head up, if he's tight, if he's wide, the landmarks don't change. Okay, but my angle will. Okay, I'm going to be much more square and much more patient versus a head up 4 technique than I would be versus a wide 5. Okay, does that make sense? So there's this myth of the coaching cue people have always used is lose ground to gain ground. And if you use that coaching cue, I'm not trying to offend you, but it just never made any sense to me. Okay. It just doesn't make sense. Okay. What you may see is an offensive lineman take, maybe what you call a drop step in order to set his hips on his angle, but there's no such thing as losing ground to gain ground. Those two things cancel each other out. What you're seeing is the offensive lineman getting his lead foot, okay, in a position to open up those hips where he can get on that angle, okay. And ideally, you want to see a positive shin angle, all right. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the toe strike versus the whole foot in the ground in a second. But again, we're trying to drive off the opposite foot in order to create force through the ground to move with intent and power, okay. So this is what I'm talking about here, okay. Some people may say, well, this is a false step, right? He stepped underneath himself, okay? Well, no, what he's doing is he's getting these power angles, right? You can see this positive shin angle, all right? We teach toe strike, okay? If you're uncovered, you need to put your toe in the ground. Why do we teach it like that? Because you got to go. You got to make up some ground, all right? You got to get there. So you need to look like a dang sprinter coming out of the blocks, okay? And so we teach that to the uncovered guys. We teach our covered guys, okay, you need to be expecting contact and pressure right now. So you need to get your whole foot in the ground, okay? I kind of caught this guy, this screenshot right here, kind of in the middle of it, but his whole foot should be in the ground because he's covered, okay? So he's thinking, I need to be expecting contact right now. So I need to get my whole foot in the ground so I can fight that pressure. Whereas the uncovered guy on the left here, he needs to be thinking, I've got to go. I need to be a dang sprinter coming out the blocks. I got to get my toe strike in the ground. I got to get that positive shin angle, and I got to go. And you'll see it some on film as well. Now, the combos are determined, like I said, based on those covered-uncovered principles, okay? And so your uncovered linemen are reading the near knee, near hip of the closest play side defender, okay? That's a good cue to give them an idea of that defensive lineman's coming to them, because it's very hard for someone's knee and hip to come to you and their body to go away from you, right? I don't think the body works like that. And so we talk about keying the near knee and hip of that next down lineman. If the knee/hip goes away, all right, then I've got to define that read, okay? If it's going away, then I'm probably not going to reach that guy, so I need to knock him over. All right, knock him over and try to climb to the second level. If that hip comes to me, then I probably should be able to reach that guy. Okay, I should probably be able to reach that guy and knock my buddy off to the next level so he can go take the linebacker. we teach our offensive linemen to try to do this in 3 steps. Why is it 3 steps? Because again, that's when the running back's making his decision. Okay. Now, do I go out there on the game film and grade it on based how many steps they took? No. All right. But I do try to make it a point of emphasis in practice. Okay. When we do these drills. Okay. And I heard a really good tip, Coach EQ, just earlier yesterday, actually, from the Run the Power podcast. They had, I think it was the Rams tight ends coach on there, and they talked about they were teaching their offensive linemen where the aiming point was, where the landmark was, and they were trying to make that decision before that landmark, right? So that's something that I'll look into using. But your guys got to know that they can't just run forever, right? Eventually, they've got to make a decision, and we try to drill it to them within those first 3 steps. They got to make a decision, because that's when we're teaching the running back to make his decision. Okay. Now, a critical part right here. This part is really, really important. If you're covered, okay, it is very important that if that defensive lineman on you tries to spike inside, you have got to stab. Okay. You've got to stab with your backside hand in order to protect your covered partner. Okay. Because if you just go and you run your track, okay, and that defensive end or whoever it is spikes inside and you don't get a piece of him, that's a really, really tough block for that uncovered guy. He's either about to get drilled or he's about to give up penetration in the backfield because you didn't help him out. Okay. So if you're a covered offensive lineman, and you'll see this stuff on film when we start getting to it, but if you're covered and your guy spikes inside, you have to stab with your backside hand. It ain't got to be a kill shot. You ain't got to knock the dude on the ground. But what we do talk about with our guys is get his shoulders turned. Get his shoulders turned perpendicular to the line of scrimmage so he can't get any real penetration. And so your uncovered partner has a real shot at actually getting the guy reached. Okay. So how do you then go about handling interior defensive line? Okay. The number one thing that can hurt wide zone is interior pressure. It disrupts the path of the running back. It forces a cut too soon, or it forces him to bend his path, whatever it is. It just throws the whole play off, right? Because most likely too, if there's some kind of pressure, then it means we're not getting somebody to reach, and it's just throws the whole play off. So you got to have a plan for facing a dominant 3 technique or a nose guard, and you got to talk to your guys about this and game plan it, right? And you want to talk about always trying to get the combo to that really, really good player, right? So if it's a really good 3 technique on the play side, center's got to go with that play side guard, which he should be anyways, right? Now, if it's a superior 3 technique backside, your backside guard has to know he's got to be a little bit more patient, okay? He's got to be more patient, get a little bit more of a piece on that 3 technique to help that backside tackle overtake the guy, all right? Unless you feel like your backside tackle can just cut him, okay, you probably need to tell that backside guard, hey, slow down, right? Be a little more patient, get a good stab on that 3 technique to help your backside tackle out. All right. If it's a really good nose guard play and play side, then the play side guard's got to be patient, and your tackle's got to know, hey, you're by yourself. Okay. This nose guard is a 5-star player. That defensive end is an average high school football player. You're by yourself, play side tackle. Play side guard has to work with the center. He's got to chip through that nose and help that center reach that guy. And if he's a superior nose backside, again, same thing with the center. He can be more patient to help the backside guard overtake. Okay. These are just some diagrams for how the combos will work out. You'll see it on film. So the drills, kind of the drill progression. Okay. I won't spend a whole lot of time on the drills, but there is a progression that we work. Okay. And we always try to show our guys how these drills are applying, and understand that doing the drill doesn't necessarily make you a better football player. It just gives you a game or a scheme specific context to apply the skills that you've hopefully been building already. All right. So we work our drive catch angles, teaching them the basic force through the ground principles. All right. Then the first actual, drill, scheme related drill we teach is reach and overtake. Okay. Reach and overtake. Use different alignments to work different angles, have them real tight, have them kind of in an outside shoulder alignment, then have them real wide. All right. The key again here is I'm getting my backside hand down the sternum, and I'm getting my backside knee and driving it through the crotch. all right, and not just reaching my butt and swinging. I'm not trying to avoid this guy. I'm not trying to run past the guy. I'm trying to press this guy and get him moving. So we work the reach and overtake. All right. Well, coach, what if he just won't be reached? What if he is playing wide and he just won't be reached? Okay. Well, by that third step, 1, 2, 3, this is when we work what we call a torque and drive technique, where you're going to torque through your core. All right. You're going to engage that core. You're going to take that backside hand. You're going to try to get it in his inside armpit, and you're going to lock it out and turn and run him to the sideline. And ideally, we'll cut in behind you. Okay. So that's the torque and drive. So you work the reach, okay, and overtake. If he won't get reach and overtake, what do? Well, that's when you work your torque and drive technique. What if I'm covered? All right. We work our linebacker approach. Okay. Work different angles versus linebackers. Okay. Teach your guys during the week too now. Do these linebackers play downhill? Do they like to go over the top? So your players know how to adjust their path, right? Use different alignments and paths by the linebacker to work different angles. Then once we feel like we've gotten that stuff locked in, we go to our actual combo pots. Okay. Again, the uncovered guy is going to read the near knee hip of the next defensive lineman. If it comes to him, he's going to try to overtake. If it goes away, he's going to try to define the read and climb. If he sits in the hole, like I said, we cannot have one defensive lineman occupying 2 offensive linemen. You've got to define the read. Okay. And so you can do your 2-man or your 3-man pots. Okay. And you got to work this crap all the time if you're going to run this play, because this is where you start to get your money. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna go to the film now here, and we'll watch a little bit of film. How much time I got, Coach?
You're running up pretty quick here.
Okay, we'll just
get
look
a few clips. Yeah, a few clips.
Yeah, we'll just look at a few clips. All right, let me get it pulled up. Okay. All right. You got me again?
Yes, sir.
So we'll look at some ones here, and you'll see there's sometimes we did it all right. Sometimes we didn't do it all right. I'm not sure why it's not playing my clip here.
Probably just another case of huddle not working.
Oh yeah.
As usual.
You would think as much money as they get that they would have it be a little more consistent, but I don't know what I'm talking about. There we go. There's some actual video. All right. So the first clip I'll show you, we don't necessarily block it perfect on the front side, but what you will see is this cutback lane. Okay. So you're going to see my this guy right here. This is really our tackle, but he's lined up a tight end in this particular formation. He doesn't do a particularly great job. He kind of overreaches, but you'll see we get the front side stretched out and the backside opens up for a cutback lane. And there it is. And yes, that kid is really good. He's going to Clemson. I know. That's immediately what I know everybody's saying. He's really good. But the point is to show you that we get just enough of this guy. But again, where do the big plays happen? They happen right here. They happen right here on that cutback lane. And we'll look at it from the end zone. So we want to try to get these guys running. Okay. And again, that's a corner. I'm not blocking him. He can't tackle film off of. I'm trying to get these guys running, and I'm trying to get these guys cut off on the backside. And I want to run right here. So you see this play side linebacker, he sees the stretch. He immediately starts running to the sideline, and my center just works him on that angle. He just works him on the angle. Backside guard doesn't do a killer job, but he gets enough of them. He gets the guy reached, and there it is. That's all you need. And obviously, if you've got a decent running back, they can get you 5 or 6 yards out of this. And if you got a really good running back, they can get you 66. But again, you can kind of just eliminate this guy, right? And eliminate this guy. The ball's not getting outside with how wide he's playing. Now, obviously, I would like for him to get more piece of this guy, but the ball's not going outside. So we want to get these guys to stretch, okay, and cut up underneath them. And that's exactly what happened. One more time. And there you go. You see the center just take him on the angle. Okay. Here's another example, right? So this is a situation where we're not going to block this corner. Okay. Our receivers know this safety's down in the box. I'm going to push crack. Okay. And we're going to try to make the safety tackle. Now, because of how they lined up, and we've really got an extra guy with the tight end right here. Okay. But even if we didn't, all that aside, I'm not going to block this corner with him playing, at 6-ish yards right here. And I know he's not going to play a trap 2 technique right there. And plus, we got to take care of this safety right here. He's a better tackler. So this is one where we do get everything reached and we get out to the edge and corners can't tackle. And again, yes, feels really good. I know. But you'll see the blocking here from the end zone. These two are going to come up to the safety right here. The center and the guard are going to work up to 6. The backside guard is going to cut off here. My backside tackle is trying to cut off 24. He's unblocked. He's not going to make the play. So you can see the angles right here. This is a really good job. That's a really good job by the play side guard. Bam. Look at 70. He is all jacked up right here. That's a really good job with his backside hand. Okay, getting it there. And again, we shoot for the sternum. We're not always going to hit the sternum. But that's a really good job. We really don't even block 6. He gets lost in the trash. The Mike linebacker gets lost in the trash. He doesn't know where the ball is. We get a great job by the left tackle here. Takes the defensive end. Then we run to the house.
Coach, I'm going to cut you off here in a minute so we can give Mark, our token defensive coach, a chance here tonight, so we can keep the defensive guys happy.
All right, I'll show you just a couple more then. Where's let's see. I'll put I'll show. Okay, there's a couple clips from last year that I really like to show that we did a really good job on. Those are from this past year. So here's one. This is a really good job, and we'll finish with this one right here. If I got it on here. Yeah, I don't know. Huddle's being weird, but anyway, you guys get the idea. Oh, here it is, right here. So this team we played, they were doing some funky stuff. So we brought in a tight end and a wing right here. This formation's been good to us the past couple of years. All right, so we knew they were going to walk this guy down here. So we had our wing. He's coming to block that guy right there. And now I've got 6 for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? And so again, we're going to get this front side defensive end stretched out. This is a great job of the running back making his read. The front side defensive end, he's stretching out. He's running the sideline. Same thing for this guy. He's running the sideline. We get all this trash cut off, and there's your running lane. Now, this is what I was talking about. Yes, you might consider this technically a cutback, if you will, right? But see where the ball is when the play is snapped, and look where he makes his cut. The ball's in the middle of the field, and he makes his cut on the hash. So those gaps are moving 5 to 6, 7 yards. And we'll look at it from the copy, end zone copy, and we'll finish up. So this, you can see this is a good job on my right guard here. Okay. This shot right here doesn't have to be a killer blow, but he does just enough. He gets that defensive lineman's shoulders turned to make the reach easier for the center, and his eyes are working up to the backer. And there it is. Okay. So that's just a little bit on the wide zone action. I don't want to take up too much more time. So if you guys have any other questions or anything, just shoot me a message on Twitter. Always down to talk some football.